66. Next up, we're going to run House. They're very similar in nature. I actually believe they're the same. House Bill 2358 by Representative Burns and House Bill 2899 by Representative Pollitt. I'm going to run those together. Thank you all, and please proceed when you're ready.
Thank you. I'm Representative Tricia Burns from District 63, and I have House Bill 2358. It's about accountability. If someone chooses to sell or distribute the most dangerous drugs, such as fentanyl, heroin, meth, etc., and that results in a death, then this bill makes it very clear that there'll be consequences. It closes loopholes, removes excuses, and ensures that dealers can't escape responsibility by blaming the victim or by hiding behind state lines. Simply put, if you profit from pushing deadly drugs and someone in Missouri dies, Missouri law will hold you accountable.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. State Representative Brad Pollitt, 52nd District. House Bill 2889 removes one line from statute. It removes the knowing such substance is mixed with another controlled substance. Proving that a person knowingly sold drugs mixed with another controlled substance can be difficult, if not impossible, to prove. The prosecution typically relies on circumstantial evidence to infer this, get this knowledge. This summer, I was down in Cedar County and ran into an organization that has members that have lost loved ones to drug overdose, usually mixed with fentanyl, and they found it hard, if not impossible, to prove the seller knew the drugs were mixed, but yet their loved ones were deceased. A couple of these individuals are here today to testify. I'm not going to go over statistics with this group. You are the experts. That's why you're on this committee. About 1,500 Missourians died in 24 from drug overdoses, and the vast majority of those were mixed with fentanyl. Now, thankfully, that number came down about 26%, and so it's headed down. But we have to hold these individuals that are profiting on these deaths accountable, and I think this bill might do that. I'm not an expert in this area. I don't know what this opens up when you take knowingly out of that. Some of you would know, I'm sure, better than me, but like I said, I've got a couple people here that traveled a long distance to testify, so you might be better off asking questions from them than me.
Anybody have any questions for the bill sponsors? Please proceed.
I just wanted to add the thing that makes this bill different for the two of us is my portion brings in if this happens outside of the state, and his portion is the mixed. And we both agree that that together would make a good bill because this bill talks about a controlled substance already. Adding this complication that it's mixed with something else is what we both agree. You don't need there to be a knowing mix. It's already a controlled substance.
Perfect. Peace and harmony. Dogs and cats getting along. I love it. Representative Hovis.
To inquire, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Thank you for addressing that because I feel the same way. I worked in Cape Girardeau for 30 years as a police officer. Our bars would close at 1. Everybody'd head across the river bridge to the bars across the bridge there. They would sell drugs, obtain them over there. So the part provision that you have in your bill on line 5, depending on whether it occurs here or over there in Illinois or wherever, I agree with. I think that should be part of this. I do like the other representative's bill better in that a lot of times people that deal drugs, they don't know what's in the stuff. They just think they're told it's drugs. They have no idea if it's mixed. And by removing that knowing language would be very helpful for prosecution in those particular cases because if they give someone an illegal drug, they die from it, there should be consequences. So just my perspective on it, but I'm glad you addressed that, and I thank you guys for both bringing these bills here. I think that them together can make a good bill here.
Any Representative Sharp?
To comment.
Please.
I'm finding myself agreeing with Representative Hovis a lot more today than I had thought I would. But no, my district is in Kansas City. Obviously, we are, really close to the Kansas border. The portion that stuck out to me the most was not being able to hide behind state lines. And I believe, and I agree, the knowingly part should make it a lot easier, especially for our new prosecutor in Jackson County to pursue those charges. So just want to thank you both.
Any further questions or comments? Thank you both. I see we do have some witnesses here. Looking forward to hearing your testimony. Is there anybody here to testify against? Outstanding. First witness in support, please come up. Make sure your microphone is turned on. Your witness form is put in the bin, and state your name for the record.
My name is Laura Woody. I am on the board of directors of...
That'll move closer to you. You can just pull it. It should
Okay.
move. There we go.
Sorry. I'm on the board of directors of Lost Voices of Fentanyl, the largest fentanyl awareness group. We have more than 45,000 members nationwide. And I am also both the Missouri and Kansas state representative of Drug Induced Homicide Incorporated, which was founded more than a decade ago by a former Chicago police officer whose daughter was poisoned with a lethal dose of MDMA, and she advocates for justice nationwide. This new statute is good, but even before we had this new statute, delivery of a controlled substance that causes a death is second-degree murder, and every state has some form of second-degree murder, and knowledge isn't necessary for second-degree murder. You know, if you're robbing a bank and someone gets shot, even if you aren't the one who shot them, that death wouldn't have occurred had you not been robbing a bank. So if you weren't distributing illegal drugs, the person wouldn't have died, regardless of whether you intended for that to happen or knew that something lethal was in it. One of the biggest loopholes in this is the requirement that one substance be added to another substance. For example, if someone laces cocaine or heroin with fentanyl, then this applies. But if they replace the cocaine or heroin with fentanyl, then this law, with its current existing wording, can't be used. Most of the counterfeit pills that are killing so many people are made up of illicit fentanyl, coloring, binding powders, and some type of filler like aspirin, acetaminophen, ibuprofen, even baby formula. And it's all mixed up and put in a pill press and pressed out to look exactly like a Percocet, Xanax, Adderall, etc. It has none of those pharmaceutical substances whatsoever. So the Percocet, Xanax, or Adderall has been replaced with fentanyl, and only one illicit substance is present. That loophole is allowing a lot of drug dealers to get away with murder. Illicit fentanyl poisoning is now the #1 cause of death in Americans ages 18 to 49, with the fastest growing demographic being ages 14 and under. Over 10,000 Missourians have lost their lives to illicit substance poisoning just in the past 5 years. This public safety crisis is no longer limited to the substance use community. In 2023, 43 children under the age of 5 died from illicit fentanyl poisoning in the state of Missouri. 7 of those were in Jackson County, Missouri, but the Jackson County prosecutor was only aware of 3 of those. That means 4 people who were responsible for the death of a child under the age of 5 are walking around not being held accountable for those deaths. We have to stop every link in the supply chain from that's killing people. Many jurisdictions historically have not investigated these deaths as criminal. They just write them off as accidental because they see the victim as being culpable in their own deaths. We call that victim blaming. And what people usually say is, well, they should have known that fentanyl could be in the drugs they were getting, or it could have been a counterfeit pill. If the victim should have known, shouldn't we expect the supplier to know? Because the victims, they receive a death sentence immediately with no due process, no jury of their peers, no representation, no appeal. They receive an immediate death sentence for their role in this crime. My son died on Halloween 2021, and The people responsible for his death were never held accountable. This statute wasn't in place yet, but I know I'll never see justice for him, but I advocate for every other victim and for every other mother who has had to bury a child, because we all stood up and said, with liberty and justice for all, even drug addicts, having a substance use disorder does not void a victim's right to justice. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Representative Schulte and then Representative Jones.
Thank you. To inquire,
Proceed.
if, in your opinion, if we, behind the word mixed, added the words or replaced, would that cover all the loopholes?
Well, I think the Bill 2889, which just strikes through that line, knowing such substance is mixed with another controlled substance, will take care of that.
Yeah, but you said that mixing it provides a loophole because they would replace the illegal substance with fentanyl. They're not mixing it, they're replacing it. So I'm asking if we just added the words behind mixed, we said or replace, if that wouldn't cover all the bases and therefore take away that loophole.
I suppose it would,
You understand what does that make sense?
but just
Because
stating.
you said they're mixing it with Tylenol or ibuprofen or some other thing.
Right, but those aren't controlled substances.
Right.
So just stating if they deliver or distribute a controlled substance, it doesn't need to specify that it was mixed with another controlled substance.
Just strike the whole thing, mixed
Yeah.
with. Okay, got it.
Representative Jones,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To inquire briefly.
please proceed.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you for being here and sharing your testimony with us. I'm so sorry for your loss. You are the perfect example of someone taking tragedy in their life and helping others. And I know that cannot be an easy thing to do, but we applaud you for that. So thank you so much for being here. My question is, could you please go back to your statistics on the children? Mm-hmm. I just caught it very briefly, and I would really like to commit that to memory, if you don't mind.
In 2023, 43 children under the age of 5 died from illicit fentanyl poisoning in the state of Missouri alone. And every day, I hear tragic and shocking stories of infants, toddlers, elementary students, teenagers, college students. Most of them didn't live long enough to become drug addicts. Some of them didn't live long enough to learn how to walk. And I shared a couple of examples. Just a couple of weeks ago, there was a story about a 13-year-old who took 1,500 pills to school. One of the tactics of these traffickers is they'll groom younger people to give away these pills. They purposely try to get people addicted to increase their customer base. If one person dies, that's okay, because at the same time they gain 9 new customers. And perhaps the young person that they've groomed to go out and give away these pills to try to get people addicted, they probably didn't know that it was in that substance. But another tragic story, in Maryland, there was a 14-year-old sister and a 10-year-old brother found dead by their 12-year-old sister from a pill that the older sister had been given from someone at school. And it's just tragic. My son was 29. He struggled with substance abuse for many years. But like I said, they still deserve justice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony, ma'am. Anybody else here to testify in support? If you would, please make sure you drop off your witness form.
Okay, I think I did it online.
Great.
Is that okay?
Yep. Make sure your mic's turned on. State your name for the record
Jim
for us.
Wilfred, president of Second Chance at Life out of St. Louis. And I'm here to testify on behalf of this. Laura did a good job explaining some of the things. I'm just a union carpenter, 22 years in the Carpenter District and 3 years now at UAW. And I shouldn't have to be sitting up here. I really shouldn't. I've learned a lot of things in the past couple of years. My son died at 23 years old, June 20th, 2023. And my son was trying to put together a group of people his age to go into schools to talk about the dangers of opioids. But he smoked a joint laced with fentanyl, and now he's dead. The Bridgeton Police Department said we don't investigate drug deaths. That was the answer I was given when I called. And I said my son was against all this stuff. He didn't. There's something else going on here. I investigated this because, like Laura is a representative of Drug Induced Homicide, I am also on the other side of Missouri. And what we do is we investigate our own child's death until we get enough information to take to the DEA, which seems to be the only people that are investigating. This law would help that, because during my boots on the ground things and dealing with other parents who have lost their children, I also started dealing with the police force, the DEA, the Narcotics Division of the City of St. Louis. I was in on getting 579-022 passed last year. That was the original drug-induced homicide that we're now trying to change the law, the wording on some of now. I was called 6 months ago by the head of the Narcotics Division in the City of St. Louis and clued in that with this loophole, having that sentence, they are not wanting to investigate these crimes. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. This has a loophole that says that the head of the Narcotics St. Louis Police Department told me directly, we don't investigate them because there's a loophole in that law. And we're going to go up against it and we're going to lose. They don't need to know that the substance is mixed, and it doesn't. With this wording, it says there has to be, like Laura said, 2 substances in it, and they have to know they're doing it. We got to come down on these people. We got to stop this, because the same person that killed my son killed 3 other kids before him. You know what? Those parents was just turning an eye and saying my son was a drug addict and he's dead. And I tried to get at least one of them to come with me and get this stuff going, because wrong. There's been drug addicts forever, but they're dying like crazy now, and it's because of this drug. There's a lot being done about this drug, but there's other things we can do. I mean, I've got a lot of other things that I'm trying to work with that has nothing to do with this bill. What I'm hearing about there is this bill. To tell you right now, that's what I was told by the head of the St. Louis Narcotics Division, Detective Pretty, when he was there, that because of that wording, they're not trying to prosecute anybody. They're not trying to arrest them. Without that, this law says anybody that is dead from an illicit substance, that murder should be investigated. And by God, it should. It should. I wrote a bunch of stuff down, but I don't even know what else to say. I think that was the important stuff.
Any questions? Representative Hovis and Representative Jones.
Thank you. And like the other representative said to the former person that testified, we as a body here are sorry for your loss. I mean, we can't say it enough because I've never lost a child, but I would never want to have to do that. It would be devastating. So I'm sorry for your loss you had on that. I do agree that sometimes when we have laws up here, when we pass them, we sometimes don't know when you throw the rock in the water, how the pond is going to react with the waves. But I do agree if we need to clarify this to help with the prosecution of those cases, because I've always felt that someone that dies from drugs that they buy illegally, the people selling that sometimes don't even know what's in it. They don't know what the purity level is. My last year in law enforcement, I went to a conference that was spoken. We had some DEA people there to investigate drugs coming in from foreign entities, and in China, where we make fentanyl over there, and it's transferred here. The groups over there that were illegal would start a factory on the other side of the street. They would go and make fentanyl over there, and they'd mix it in cement mixers. No accountability for what the purity level was. And then they would go, and when the DEA would send the stamps to put on there to show it was a scheduled controlled substance, they would get those, photograph them, copy them, put them on their fake stuff, and then sell it here as legal drugs. And there had been 2 deaths recorded in the U.S. when they had actually given a prescription to a young man that had a serious accident. They gave him some painkiller. It was so pure that when he took his first pill, he was dead within 3 hours. And so that even happens overseas. I don't know that we can prosecute them over there for that. That's something that's going on nationally. But, that was 7 years ago when I got out, when I heard that. So those things are bad. I just want to make sure that if someone dies from receiving illegal drugs, that there's a penalty for it. So if we can clarify that, I support that action.
Representative Jones,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to inquire.
please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Same sentiment. I'm so sorry for your loss. Thank you for being here, though. It's astounding to me that there aren't more folks in this room advocating for these bills. This really bothers me. These chairs should be full. This is that important. My question for you is, well, number one, is this your son on your shirt?
Yes,
And his name is?
and this is him,
And what is his name?
Austin.
Austin. Thank you for being here for Austin. You were speaking about talking to local law enforcement in St. Louis. I'm St. Louis County, so not very far. Have you spoken to them about this bill, and do they feel that this would assist or take care of the problem of not being able to prosecute?
I haven't really spoken to them about it, but I know the Crush organization would be very interested. You have a great organization in St. Louis County called Crush.
Great. Thank you so much again. Thank you for being here, both of you.
Any further questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony, sir. Anybody here to testify for informational purposes only? Seeing none, that concludes the hearing for House Bills 2358 and 2899 and adjourned.